welcome to this conversation in the Maha Barsha show. It's been a little while since we came back to you, but we finally got together, and we've got a very exciting, conversation ahead of us today. We've got Nick, and obviously, I've got my partner in crime, Maha, with us being backed up by Ginny in the back end. Without further ado, Maha, did you want to say hello, and then we'll pass it on to Nick for his introduction.
Yes, of course. Hello, everybody. We're back, finally. It's only the summer. We've had a very, very busy first 2 quarters, both at work and our personal life. So it took us a little while to get back together, but we are. And we've been waiting for this guest today. We've been waiting for a long time for all of our calendars to come together. And it looks like today was a good day to do so. So a little bit about Nick from my side, and then I'll let Nick speak for himself. I met Nick as part of a hiring conversation, not for me, of course, but someone on my team that he hired off. And so I told him it'll be payback time at some point, and it seems like it is now. And we decided to invite Nick over as a guest. So Nick, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited. I liked your little note saying, hey, I wasn't trying to hire you. To be clear, I'm always trying to hire you. So I haven't lost hope that that's going to happen someday. So my name's Nick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Prim AI. We are a voice AI infrastructure company. We help enterprises deploy voice AI solutions just as fast as their startup peers who are trying to displace them. So you can think about so much opportunity in voice AI right now across the spectrum of restaurants, insurance, customer support. There's so much happening in it. And there's enterprises that are trying to deploy it, and they come to us for help. How do we get it done faster? A little bit about my background. I'm originally born and raised in Indiana, Muncie, Indiana, for the 60,000 fans from Muncie that I'm sure you have. Ended up at MIT, was trained there, spent some time in a pretty kind of diverse, non-linear career track, and maybe that's what makes this conversation interesting. I started out as a design engineer on the F-135 Joint Strike Fighter engine, and then kind of pivoted out of hardware and into software. I spent time in ed tech. I was a founder of a company called Fund Forward, which was dedicated to helping public schools fundraise more effectively. I went on to work in product at a company called Jobcase that was focused on connecting frontline workers. And then most recently, before founding Prim, I worked in product, people, and ops. In the people role is how we ended up meeting at a company called Posh that uses voice AI to help banks and credit unions better serve their members and customers. So then now I've been working at Prim AI for about a year. So definitely a generalist skill set is what you're going to get from me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Nick. And this is so exciting. Like, this is not your first startup, right? You've done it before.
This is my second run at founding a startup. Also, my co-founder's second run at it. So in some way, we're veterans. But to be honest, in the AI age, it's almost like we're doing it fresh again, because the old playbooks are all gone. We're doing things differently, and it's really exciting. I would say if your listeners are aspiring entrepreneurs, it's so much easier, more fun, and exciting now than it was 10 years ago on my last run. There's never been a better time to try to build a company.
Yeah. Nick, thank you for that quick overview of your journey. I think it's quite colorful, and you've been quite all over the place in different product management to starting your own company as well, and even in your current Prim AI that you founded with your co-founder. So you've been running it for over a year now, and while we've been hearing about AI and what it could mean to us, to people, to the jobs and all of that, and it's been more prevalent now in the last probably in the last year. I think we're seeing a lot more conversations and probably concerns as well as to what does that mean for the human workforce. And but you've run it for a year, over a year. Talk us through why you started it. I mean, given that you do have background in the voice AI sort of thing, but you've been helping customers and enterprises deploy these solutions, right? But we're seeing a lot more conversations. We're hearing a lot more conversations around AI now. So you would have seen that change as well. Pretty keen to hear from when you started to what you see today. And Maha, feel free to add anything else, but this is a conversation. We'll have more questions as we go.
Yeah, of course. I think the origin for starting Prim was really, I think AI, despite being way more prevalent in society right now, and like that's going to continue to become more and more prevalent, but it's not a new thing, right? Like we humans like built systems that mastered chess a long time ago, right? And so AI has been on this big curve. And I think what became very clear to my co-founder Derek and I when we started Prim was that a lot of AI systems needed to kind of move away from the way they were built in the 2010s, which is generally when you think about ChatGPT being a large language model. When they say large, they measure it oftentimes in parameters, and we're talking about hundreds of billions or even trillions of parameters, which are could get into like the depth of what does that mean. But you can kind of think about it as a lot of the AI solutions done in the 2010s, right, are these like kind of small language models, right? They're like, you can debate what small or large is, but you're talking tens of thousands of parameters equivalent, right? And so we had this view that, instead of, a lot of historical AI systems were built with like very specialized, quite small models, that these large language models that are coming out from OpenAI and Gemini and Anthropic are going to be these like generalist maybe like a generalist tool set that you can just deploy to lots of different use cases. And so that's kind of why we started Prim. We said, okay, this is going to be a big, huge unlock for enterprises with all kinds of different use cases that are going to try to build. We're very excited about voice. We have expertise in voice, but they're going to try to build these systems using the LLM as the backbone, not their own specialized tiny model. And that ended up being the kind of the formation of Prim and why we got started.
So if we were to pivot to the people side of it, like there's a technology, which is the enabler, there's a people side of it, which is really important for us because you just talked about like the emerging workforce, right? The emerging workforce is going to be born into this AI-enabled universe already. Like where we were, when we, and we don't want to go back to when I started my career, but when we started our career, technology was still like enabling technology or like sales enabling technology, which is my area and Barsha's, is like they were still very much, CRM system based, very manual, very human driven. And now, and then there came the time when there were all of these like Zooms and the Gongs and Claries and the others, which would just like could integrate this structured and non-structured data into some sort of legible format. And then now it's like 100%. You could go 100% AI based and need not put one entry into your CRM. In fact, even CRMs could become obsolete at that rate, at the rate at which AI is integrating information and providing you meaningful data. How, like emerging workforce that's entering into a universe like this, what does it mean for them? And how do you anticipate, like talk a little bit about the people you're hiring as well. And what kind of capabilities or competencies are you looking at from them?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think candidly, if someone's early in their career, right now, there's this major labor dislocation. I think you can probably feel it. And I think it's easy to actually reflect on how did people get good at work, whatever their work was before, right? And, we have college. College prepared you in lots of ways. I think there's obviously great universities. I went to one I'm very proud of and think lovingly on about. But at the end of the day, most people learn through apprenticeship, right? You land in a role. Your primary job is to give someone who already knows what they're doing more leverage and like help them be more effective. And just like blacksmithing back in the day, right? You're like giving them leverage and you're learning on the job. And I think what's potentially really concerning now is that if you're that senior hire, you're that senior person that normally would be getting leverage from a junior employee, like AI is often serving as a higher leverage investment of your time than that junior employee, right? And so now that's the challenge, right? Is like, why would I want to go work with someone who has no idea what they're doing when I can spend my time using all these AI tools and it's actually going to make me more productive? And so I think that's we lay out the chess pieces. What is the problem we face? That's the problem I see, is that this historical bargain of I give you leverage and you give me apprenticeship is in many cases and a lot in an increasing amount broken. So what do we do about it, right? If you're
That's
20
scary, very scary.
I mean, I'm sure there's a light at the end of the tunnel of this conversation, because it's a lot of doom and gloom right now. Nick, bring us to life.
Yeah. Let's swing it around, right? And say, okay, where's the optimism here if you're 22 years old? Well, I don't know, but maybe the trope for me was when I was in my teens, and someone asked you a question in the mid 2000s. They asked you a question and you're like, what are you doing? Just Google it. And they're like, what? And they don't, they were like, what does Google it mean, right? And then you just say, oh, you just go to google.com, you just ask, right? And you're going to get the answer you need. And then they like format the question in this weird way that a search engine wasn't really designed to figure out, right? And it was this kind of interesting spot where in the mid 2000s, like it was almost a job if you were like youthful to like be able to just like help older people Google, right? Like that was like a super valuable thing. And I do think there's this kind of neuroplasticity when it comes to like developing intuition for how to use a novel system that's kind of a black box. No one really knows how it works, right? And so I think, that's my long-winded way of saying, if you're young in your career, like having a person or an organization or a company that is like as AI enabled as possible is absolutely critical to winning. And a lot of the people who maybe are younger, I found, are going to adapt quicker to the to the AI curve, right? And I think you see it in I think you see it in Silicon Valley right now. Like the number of companies being founded by like college dropouts or even like high schoolers, right, is like higher than ever, which just seems insane. But I think the investment thesis there is that these people are going to adapt faster to these AI tools than others, and that's going to give them a leg up. So I think, the one thing I would say if you're 22, you're just getting started, is like if you're saying, hey, ChatGPT, what's the answer? And just taking what it gives you and running, like you're not doing enough. You have so much ability to really understand and develop intuition for how these systems work, how to chain them together. There's a bunch of stuff there. And companies are so hungry for people who know how to do that.
Yeah. So you brought up something that was really interesting. I'm going to stay with the people part of it because it's really important. Most of our audience is really keen to really understand that fork in the road and which way to take. And like the great Yogi Berra says it, like when you get to the fork in the road, take it, right? And so the question then becomes, is scaling up. AI is both a technology and enabler, but also very broad in the ability to leverage it. There is the application, there's a human interfacing AI, which we are very much used to, which is the ChatGPTs and the Geminis and the Anthropics. Anthropic a little less from a consumer perspective, but if you're a developer, then you'd be interacting a lot with Cloud AI. With Claude, but there's other part of it. That's one skill set, is asking the right questions, getting trying to get your homework done with ChatGPT and not being very successful at it. And there's that part of the technology, and then there's one that could actually land you in a job and do your job better, and maybe found a company. Those kind of skills. Where's the human skills in all of this, Nick? And I met you when you were the head of HR. You talked to a lot of people that you brought into, and now you're a founder. I'm sure you're still talking to a lot of people that are coming into your organization. Where's the people element in here?